I had been lost in my own head, chasing a sensation I hadn't allowed myself to feel in what felt like forever. My breathing was uneven, my skin warm, my thoughts drifting to a place both distant and forbidden. The room felt heavy with tension, the air thick with unspoken need and aching loneliness. And then the door gave a soft creak. I froze. Standing there, framed in the doorway with a knob still in his hand, was my nephew, Ethan. 22, tall and lean, but with the strong shoulders of someone who had grown into himself since I last saw him as a lanky 16-year-old. My heart slammed against my ribs as I yanked the sheet to my chest, but not before his wide eyes had already taken everything in. We just stared at each other, silent, unmoving, for what felt like forever but was only a few seconds. Then, in a low voice, he said something I will never forget. "It's too much for just one hand. Want me to help?" That was the moment everything changed. Before I continue, I just want to say thank you to everyone who listens, my bold, curious, unfiltered subscribers. You are why I keep telling these stories, the messy, complicated, honest ones that people rarely admit out loud. If you're new here and you're hesitating to join this growing circle, don't wait. That little red button means more than you think. Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Now, back to how my world turned upside down. My name is Claire. I'm 38, and I live alone in a quiet suburb just outside Nashville, Tennessee. My marriage ended 2 years ago after 13 long years of lies and a man who never once truly understood me, emotionally or physically. Since then, I've had moments, meaningless flings here and there, but nothing real. Just temporary distractions. Then came this summer. My sister, Julia, asked if her son Ethan could stay with me for a couple of months while working a landscaping job nearby. "It'll be good for him," she said. "Family will keep him grounded." I agreed. The first few weeks were normal, awkward breakfasts, shared takeout, old family gossip filling the gaps. Ethan was polite, helpful, quiet. A young man now, but to me, he was still just a kid. Until that night. I couldn't sleep, restless from weeks of ignoring my own needs. I told myself he was asleep. The door was locked. What I forgot was that the lock had been loose for months. And that's how he saw me, bare in a moment I had always kept private. I spent that night under my covers, heart racing, mortified. But the real shock came the next evening. Ethan knocked softly on my bedroom door just once. When I opened it, expecting awkward silence, he stepped in calmly, closing the door behind him. "Aunt Claire," he said evenly, "we need to talk about last night." My pulse roared in my ears. My palms went cold. He sat at the edge of my bed, meeting my eyes without flinching. "It's not just what I saw," he said quietly. "It's what I felt. I want to help you, if you let me." The air between us felt alive, like it had its own heartbeat. He sat just inches away, his expression steady, but his eyes burned with something new, something dangerous. I didn't know if I wanted to scream, cry, or push him out, but instead I asked, "Why are you saying this?" He inhaled slowly. "Because the way you touched yourself. I've never felt heat like that before. It woke something up in me. I can't explain it, but I want to take care of you." My throat tightened. A voice in my head told me this was wrong, but another voice, the one I hadn't listened to in years, leaned in closer. I looked at him then and didn't see a boy anymore. I saw a man, confident, unshaken. Still, I tried to stop it. "This is insane," I said firmly. "You're my nephew." He stood when I did, replying without hesitation, "You're not blood, Claire. You married into the family. You and Mom aren't even related by birth." He was right. That didn't make it right. I turned away, trying to breathe, but I felt him step closer, felt the warmth of his presence behind me. Then, light as a whisper, his hand rested on the small of my back. A shiver went straight through me. I should have pulled away. But I didn't. "You don't have to be alone tonight," he whispered, his voice low, just behind me. I shut my eyes, hating how much I wanted to believe him, how long I had secretly craved exactly this, real attention, someone willing to ask what I needed and actually wait for the answer. Slowly, I turned to face him. His face was closer than I expected, lips slightly parted, his breath mingling with mine. My own chest rose unevenly, and before I could stop myself, I kissed him. At first, it was tentative, almost shy. Then it broke open into something wild. I don't even remember how we ended up on the bed. One moment we were standing, hearts racing inches apart, and the next, we were tangled in something that felt both terrifying and inevitable. Every touch was careful, almost reverent, like he had been paying attention for years, memorizing all the silent aches I had carried. He was patient, deliberate, his hands moved like he understood me in ways no one ever had. It wasn't just about wanting, it was about being seen, fully, without shame. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt wanted for who I was, not just for my body. That night, we broke every rule. And we didn't stop. Even when the initial heat settled, we kept reaching for each other again, unwilling to let the night end. When the first streaks of sunlight slipped through the blinds, I lay there, watching him sleep with his arm draped across my waist. A storm of emotions churned in my chest, satisfaction, guilt, panic, and something I didn't want to name. Hope. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my sister. "Hey, Claire, surprise. Driving down to see you and Ethan tomorrow for the day. Should be there around noon. Love you." My stomach sank. The room tilted. She was coming into this house, into this secret, into a fire I couldn't put out. I sat up, pulling the sheets around me, staring at Ethan. How was I supposed to look her in the eyes after what I had just done with her son? And worse, why did part of me wish we could steal another moment before she arrived? The doorbell rang at 11:47 a.m. I froze in the hallway, heart hammering like a trapped bird. My hair was pinned up hastily, my lips bare. Ethan stood behind me, quiet. He had offered to leave, but that would only raise suspicion. So we had agreed. Act normal, smile, pretend. Hide everything. I opened the door. Julia stood there, glowing with her usual easy smile, sunglasses perched on her light brown curls, a bag slung casually over her shoulder. "Claire, you look amazing. Is that glow from the Tennessee sun, or is there something you're not telling me?" she teased, hugging me tight. I laughed too loudly. She hugged Ethan next, holding him just a moment too long. Something twisted in my chest at that. Brunch was torture. We sat around my kitchen island, sipping orange juice, pretending to be the picture of a happy family. Julia chattered about her new clients, her yoga obsession, and some fling she'd started with a divorced chef. Ethan barely looked up. I tried not to react every time his knee brushed mine beneath the table. At one point, Julia glanced between us. "You two okay? You seem quiet." "Just tired from work," Ethan answered. "Late night," I added quickly. We both knew we weren't talking about work. The way Julia looked at me lingered too long, too knowing. She didn't say anything, but her silence felt heavier than words. Later that afternoon, she stepped outside to take a phone call. Ethan and I stood in the hallway, facing each other. "I shouldn't have come into your room," he whispered. I shook my head. "I let you in. Do you regret it?" I couldn't answer, because the truth was no, I didn't regret it. I regretted how fast it happened, how reckless we'd been, but not the way it made me feel. For once, I felt alive, not just seen but understood. That night, Julia sat next to me on the porch while Ethan showered. She sipped wine, staring into the distance before saying something that knocked the air out of me. I need to tell you something I've never said to anyone. My chest tightened. What is it? She kept her eyes forward. Years ago, when you were still married, I slept with Michael. Michael, my ex-husband. Her words hit like cold water, leaving me breathless. She looked away, voice quiet. It was just once. I was in the middle of my divorce. He was drunk, and we were stupid. But I hated myself for it. I never forgave myself. I stared at her, my chest burning with betrayal, disbelief, and something painfully familiar. Suddenly, it struck me. Betrayal wasn't a single act. It was a cycle, spinning through all of us. That night, after Julia went to bed, Ethan came to my door again. I hesitated, then opened it. We stood there, caught in the weight of everything unspoken, until I finally forced myself to speak. This has to stop. Ethan's gaze locked on mine, his eyes glassy but unwavering. Because of her? He asked quietly. I shook my head. No. Because of me. I stepped closer, my hand trembling as I touched his cheek. I want you. God, I want you more than I should. But I can't lose myself just because I want you. He held my stare for what felt like forever, his jaw tight, his expression full of things he didn't say. Finally, he nodded, slow and deliberate, like he understood even if he didn't agree. With one last, heavy look, he turned and walked away. I closed the door behind him. Not because I didn't need him, but because I needed to remember how to need myself more. That was the last night Ethan stayed under my roof. Julia never asked questions. At least not out loud. And I never told her, just like she never truly apologized for what happened with Michael. Some things are meant to stay unspoken. Some desires aren't meant to last. They're meant to wake us up, to remind us we're still alive, even if they burn out as quickly as they arrive. Now I want to know, what would you have done? Was I right to end it, or would you have risked everything for something so intense, so dangerously real? If this story made your heart race, hit that like button. Share it with someone who secretly loves stories about love, chaos, and choices that feel too real. And don't forget to subscribe, because next week, I'll be back with another raw, messy, and unforgettable confession. Until then, stay brave, stay curious, stay honest.